In that last game going on about how long the games can be and how tank versus tank and really draw out the games, but we don't have anything cheeky going off this game, so let's just do the introductions nice and slow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the IEM Katowice qualifiers. One player from today will go on. That's such a tough hole to fill, spot to achieve, however you want to phrase it, but JJAKJI and GUMIHO currently playing on in these semifinals brackets. The other semifinal bracket is Hyun versus Hydra, so TVC finals guaranteed. The question is which T and which Z will go on. I'm Rifkin, joined today by Zombie Grub, and spawning in the lower right corner of the map from the team JJAKJI, the Korean player known as GUMIHO.
And in the top left, as the Red Terran, it is JJAKJI.
Team Mind Sanity, of course. He's people do find this funny. A lot of the Koreans, of course, in the brackets marked with a Korean flag, but JJAKJI and Stardust, having lived in Switzerland for so long at this point, I guess have achieved Switzerlandish flag, Swiss flags at this point. I don't know what's Switzerlandish. That's a long day of casting finally coming in, but. Alright, so this is one where I actually think this could go far. To be honest, I wouldn't be shocked to see like the typical openings where players open up with a Banshee or a Raven or a Viking, depending on if they want to be defensive or offensive, but Heavy Rain is such a good map for tanks, and mostly because of the crazy ramps and this weird like Grand Canyon in the middle of the map.
Yeah, it's a Grand Canyon. Yeah, it's pretty much a map of chokes and ramps. It's kind of like Belshir, but like even worse. So, you know, tank's going to be very effective. There's going to be a lot of chokes that you just place two tanks and you're pretty much safe there. The thing about going mech on this map, well, that sounds great, is that there is a lot of open space when it comes to your natural and your mains. That's a lot of opportunity to drop. And because it is chokes and ramps, it seems good, but it also means there's a lot of pathways, like a lot of pathways to get anywhere that you want to go. So, you know, it's not one map that I'd say like it's definitely better for mech or it's definitely better for bio, but there are certain strengths that you need to keep in mind or weaknesses.
Well, that in the tanks, I mean, tanks are going to be the core of your army. I don't know a single Terran build you can do that doesn't involve tanks at some point along the way, whether it's for early defense or that crazy push, but I mean, it's been a long time since like 4-port, 2-port, Banshee, any sort of port Banshee really won a game in TVT.
Yeah, yeah, even some players, like even if it's they're against mech and they want to go bio, a lot of players are preferring to go for bio mech as opposed to just straight up bio against mech. So bio tank. But yeah, it's gonna be going up to Banshee. The usual for TVT, get that 1-1-1. Some players do try and get a command center somewhere in there and just defend off of it, but
no second gas out of GUMIHO though, so this will be, I think, a Viking and maybe a Raven. If he goes Banshees, it's gonna be cloakless at the very least, and it's always been risky to do, because, you know, every Terran player is going to have some Marines out. It's not impossible to hold off cloakless Banshees at all.
Yeah, you know, it's just impossible to actually expect to deal a lot of damage with your Banshee opener because they are so popular. They also have been very well learned how to defend, you know, and JJAKJI is actually going to get the Raven, while GUMIHO is going to get that cloakless Banshee, as you were talking about. You know, the fact that you are almost expecting your opponent to get a Raven and a Viking anyways, I actually kind of see why you wouldn't want to get Cloak.
I feel like there's almost like an infinite loop of metagaming that can go on between these builds. Like, all right, he's going to go Banshee, so I'm going to go Raven. And then the other guy expects you to go Raven, so he goes Viking. And because you think he might go for a Viking, you then go for a cloaked Banshee because there'll be no like blah, 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 blah. But funny enough, this just ends up being the way it is every single time. One player will go offensive with the Banshee, and one player will go defensive with the Raven.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, continue.
Since it's not Cloak, he is going to just get one and then go into some of his own protection. A single Widow Mine is coming out. He doesn't know what his opponent's doing if he's going Banshee, but even if he's not going Banshee right now, counter Banshee can be powerful.
Yeah, you know, you've said it before in the past, and I agree every time. It's like no one expects the later Banshee. But
yeah.
I would honestly love if that Widowmine was brought across the map. Innovation wasn't the person who invented this, but he was the first person I personally saw do it. Where you bring the Widowmine, you kind of put it outside the cliff, and you try and bait the Viking into it. Because the Widowmine will not one-shot a Banshee, but it will one-shot a Viking.
Yeah. That can be good, but you know, he just saw the Raven, so he definitely could go ahead and take that Widowmine out into the field. His command center is way far ahead of JJAKJI's. JJAKJI will be having to gear up for a push. Of course, he's gonna have tanks a lot faster
because
he could
probably one base this and do a lot of damage, in all honesty. Not saying like to all in, but go for it at the very least. Force the
Yeah.
natural back and then maybe contain for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That is what he should do. Like, he's going to push out, probably get a commander on the low ground, although he has to be a little worried about that Banshee, and, you know, contain. I'd be really surprised if he doesn't, because if he doesn't do anything, then he is so far behind with the command center.
Yeah, and whether you're playing mech or whether you're playing bio, the expansion is really what comes in the key. I mean, 2 bases is common. It's weird, actually. In TVT, it's usually either 2 bases or like 5 bases each. There's very rarely that like in between number. But Helleen's coming across the map like this, and JJAKJI's ready for it. He's not too concerned.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Hellions can do a lot of damage to just Marines, obviously, but it's enough that they can ward it off.
Nothing's died yet this game, just side note.
That is weird. So you're seeing like Reaper openers that something dies eventually, but these Hellions might get into the main, actually. There is no wall off. There is a siege tank about to pop out, but they can actually go like circumvent it. There's so much open space in the main that is actually definitely a possibility, but that just leaves his main open. There isn't a medevac, so they can't
hit. Oh my god, these Marines are so low, but not quite dead. One tank volley will kill all of them as we see.
No.
Terrible engagement here for JJAKJI.
Was not expecting that tank, I suppose.
Hellions were brought back home, though, so he's not exactly roasting the mineral line of JJAKJI behind this. Banshee does fall, and JJAKJI, he's not... Whoa, he catches the Viking mid-land. That kind of sucks. Hellions are going to cut off reinforcements, though. Marines are going to die. Blue Flame is almost done. Tank will be able to push this back a little bit, but these Hellions are somewhat... I don't want to say trapped, but limited on what they can do.
Yeah, they can't go back home, is what they can't do. They can do everything but, so... he's probably going to wait, and then when he breaks out, those are going to be really good for the back attack.
He can double Secret Missile one of the tanks, too, if he really wants to take one out.
That's a good point, yeah.
He may go for a point defense run if he's really worried about something else, but double Seekers, I think, would be the best in this scenario. He's got the energy for it.
Yeah, you know, he's not really looking to push in, so getting a tank for energy pretty much is always a good thing, but it's probably not like the, you know, first thing on his mind.
This siege tank stutter step that's going on right now is absurd, by the way.
But I really like it, though. Like, you don't usually see them being so meticulous about it because they just kind of, like, give up and say, like, well, at least you got you contained. But since he does have air superiority, he can do this.
Yeah, he's in range, but unfortunately his opponent can't see him. GUMIHO forced to take a bit of a later engagement here. Auto turrets instead of Secret Missiles. I'm not sure I love that choice. Blue Flame Hellions come from behind. Looks like he will clean this up. Now, he does still have the air superiority, which is a big key thing, because he's following this up with his own Cloaked Banshees. Kind of joked about it earlier, but, you know, no one expects the later Banshees, and GUMIHO's not going to have the anti-air for this. Unfortunately, JJAKJI's yielding his air control by landing the Vikings in the main like this. Not exactly in love with that idea.
Yeah, JJAKJI might have overstayed his welcome just a little bit, but that actually wasn't, you know, all of his army or anything like that. It is unfortunate, though, because he didn't do any economic damage, and he did have the later command center. He got a third, though, so...
Look at this, he's just sitting on top of the starport because he can. The cheeky guy. I would love if GUMIHO starts just building a missile turret underneath this or something, because, I mean, realistically, he's not going to be able to do much for quite some time. Banshee going to come in, clean up one tank. We'll get 2 tanks. You know, let's see if the SCV repair is good enough. This can cost SCVs their lives, but Thor on the way. A little bit delayed, but it's all GUMIHO can do. Have to give up workers and bleed units out in the meantime.
Yeah. Very, very good. Like I said, the counter Banshee can be very powerful. You just don't expect it. You just think your opponent's never going to go for it again, but that is why JJAKJI did it. And this Thor...
He's wasting time on he could kill these SCVs. He's just wasting time shooting the tank, though.
Yeah. The Vikings go after the barracks.
Although this Viking's going to die from splash damage no matter what this Thor hits. 1 health, run! That goes down immediately. Banshees are light units, guys. Don't forget, so Thors do a ton of extra damage to them. Only 1 Thor, though, and he's taking out the tanks. So, backing on out of this. Thor is going to be trying to defend, but of course it's very slow. It's not going to be here anytime soon. And the Vikings appear to be soaking the hits.
Yeah. Important to note that GUMIHO's third is a lot later than JJAKJI's, so JJAKJI is now powered 4th in the economy department, and that does not bode well for GUMIHO. It's still not enough to really say like one player's definitely going to win the game, of course, but there are slight leads going back and forth. GUMIHO going for a mech with such a tiny army for so long is what's really worrying.
It's, yeah. Let's not forget too, he's down 1 in this series. Like he's got to win this. It's his last life. I know it's weird to consider because that game 1 went by so quickly, but I noticed because I looked at the score for a second. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Banshee's climbed up, going to take a little bit of damage, but the point defense drone will guard them from the Vikings, combined with that Thor. Looks like he will lose the air fight here in the end, just barely, but with the Banshees, he'll clean up these tanks, he'll clean up the Hellions. JJAKJI's going to have to back up, though. He's going to have to yield. He's not going to be able to push too much more forward. He lost a lot of his ground forces, but still, every time they trade, JJAKJI comes out a little further ahead.
Yeah, look at the army supply. That is not where a mech player wants to be. And he's not even really mining from his third either, while JJAKJI is like totally on board with that. 45 to 15 army supply. And a lot of that's in Hellions. And like Hellions just aren't, they're so not important until you need them for a buffer for a lot of tanks, which he doesn't have.
Yeah, they're not bad at running up to the tanks either, but because JJAKJI's playing Bio, the Marines are going to be somewhat susceptible, but it's not really the Marines that are going to be the problem. It's going to be the Marauder count. And he's certainly getting a lot of them. Hellbats, if they get on top of Marauders, can trade with them quite nicely. As Hellbats hit really hard and they splash like crazy, but Blue Flame, of course, won't provide any benefit to the damage versus them or the tanks.
Yeah. You know, JJAKJI up by 40 supply right now. He still has those Banshees, which are actually going to come into surprising effect, because I think still Gumiho is not trying to go for the air superiority.
I need to back up your comment about supply. Look at the army supply specifically.
No, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Well, before.
Well, I thought you were referencing the overall supply, but yeah, no, this is when you play mech, you can't really afford to be like this, because you can't produce enough. Like if he loses one tank, he's not replacing it anytime soon. I kind of fear that this bio push is just gonna end the game.
Yeah. Those Banshees, I think, really helped out JJAKJI this entire game, like a surprising amount so, but Gumiho not having any Vikings kind of killed him, and that is it.
Wow, that was not the way I saw that going for Gumiho, but JJAKJI will take it 2-0 in the end, and now go await in the finals to play against either Hyun or Hydra. We'll try and get an update for you guys about that, but they're playing on the Korean server currently, so we don't have any information regarding them. But congratulations to JJAKJI, 2-0, gets to the finals. He's so close to victory. We'll see if his TVZ can keep up with his record so far. It's going to be a good finals no matter who it is, let's be honest.
Yes, it is.
Flip a coin.